Hello everyone. Yash, how's the Josh? I'm not happy with the Josh. So let's start. Okay, I have posted a question or some normal question. So I'm saying, क्या तुमने मोनोलिथ के साथ काम करके अपना सर बैंग किया? Louder. I monolith is the pain. If you are sad with working with monolith, then I'll ask the question again. क्या तुमने मोनोलिथ के साथ काम करते हुए अपना सर बैंग हेड किया? मैंने भी किया. For the people, can you quickly show your hands who have already worked with monolith? They know a little about architectures. A little. I'm pretty sure after end of this talk, you will learn amazing things. Cool. So the talk says a guide to front-end architectures. So what we'll do today, I'll talk about a little about front-end architectures. Then I'll not pick front-end architectures is the big thing. I'll not pick all the architectures, but the common three: monolith, micro front-ends, monorepos. Then in the last, I'll tell some interesting things how we have a 8-year-old monolith in Raise the Pig. How are we dealing with it? And how are we operating it or something on those lines? Some interesting story. So far with me? Okay, I'm still people sleep, so no issues. Yeah. Are you these people first time working with front-end architectures? I guess yes. Maybe this will cheer you up. Life of a software engineer. Okay. Oh, I have done this again. Yeah. From start of the project, I suggest this time I'll write good code. Let's see when that day will come. Or are you this thinking, oh, front-end architecture, which architecture she'll be talking about? Cool. Then. So let's ready. So I'll not, if you see some front-end architectures, people start with, okay, this is more with maybe showing some boxes. Then what is micro front end? They will show some 3 boxes. Then what is monorepo? Then they will show 10 boxes. I'll not do that. Let's have some fun. So imagine you are not sitting in this room, but you are in sitting, or maybe you have some high tech microscope that can see this Rawat Associates. This is nothing but just a construction company whose aim is that you give me something, I'll build something out of it. Let's have a microscopic view on their one of the architectures. Sorry, projects. So they are building something called Ashiana housing. Everybody here in Bangalore, we see a lot of issues with housing, right? Of finding, what do we call, finding apartments. So they are building some amazing housing that will not ask all that LinkedIn details, no brokers or something. Some interesting project they are planning to make. So let's see what they have. So as a project, they always project have project engineers. So we also have 2 engineers. One is Ashok and one is Seema. So as a product engineer, right, or a project engineer, what do you have? A master plan. They have blueprints. A blueprint where about all their projects, not just only this project, but they have about all their projects some glimpse, some blueprints, how the gardens will look like, how the rooms will look like. So they have that. Then we have our favorite Mr. Lakhan, who will build amazing flats for us to stay. So he's building an immense skyscraper. But the way he's building is that he's building everything in one go, in same architecture of the floors, of the garden. If you need to modify one floor, you need to either demolish the building and you do it in such a way. Means he's like, average engineer. Then there is one chick called Miss Neat. What she's doing, she's also working towards the same goal to build a massive skyscraper. But she's thinking, oh, it will be bad, you know, what do we call, money will be less or money will be wasted, right? If I tomorrow I need to make changes in certain in my building, so she's trying to build everything module by module. You would be thinking I was talking about front end architectures, it was started with skyscrapers and all. So let's try to relate this with our everyday things, okay? So remember the first we met the project product engineers. So what they had? They had a blueprint, not just one blueprint, but one big file where they have a lot of blueprints. We can say that project details, one big folder. They have 10 different project details. That's like a monorepo. What is a monorepo? It's nothing but, if I have to put it in very simple words, a big repo or a big folder in which 10 different projects are there. I'll come to this. How practical is this? Or, like, is it just the term, like, is it just the term in architectures, or are people using it? I'll tell it in the end. So remember the next story, Mr. Lakhan, who was trying to build everything all at once with same structure. So that is a monolith. I'm pretty sure everybody would have worked with monoliths. Anybody who have not worked with monolith? Yeah. See, a key thing to remember, if any project you start, right, that is itself a monolith. It's just like the size difference. That's all. Means every project by default is a monolith only. Then remember the story of Neat? She was trying to build things module by module. So that is micro frontend. Say, okay, this is a project garden. You keep it aside. Then you know project swimming pool. You keep it aside. Then when you are building a scaper, you just assemble it according to people's need. I hope the basic terms are clear. Let's deep dive into all one of them. First, we'll start with monolith. I'll not spend much time on it because everybody have worked on it. See a project where one project generally have only one way to deploy, right? It's not like that you can deploy this part separately. So a project with one deployment, maybe one error management tools, one set of E2E things. That is just one big chunk monolith. Yeah, a lot of people who have been in maybe with some projects which are there running from 8, 9, 10 years, or maybe small projects, or some projects there which have gained the this complexity. They will say monolith is like worst one. But I'll try to change this perception by the end of this talk. Now let's take one example. I took the screenshot. This is this. What do we call it? You see Razorpay? Oh, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I work in Razorpay, so yeah, you will see a lot of slides of Razorpay. So this is one of our projects. This is an 8-year-old project. So this is a merchant dashboard. Anybody who is maybe you are trying to set up a PG on your any project or in your company level, you will see this. So what is this? You see, it's already too cloud, too congested. We have an app bar, then we have some analytics. Then in payment products, you can see a big line of products. Do you think it will be only managed by one team? There are like 20, 10, 12 projects. They are all owned by different teams. But still, their project structure of their project code is in one repo. So it's like massive code. That is the monolith. So now, what I people might think that why are you even planning to keep code in same repo, right? If there are different projects, say if you are in, it's not only about Razorpay. Say we are in Flipkart, right? Flipkart is the e-com, so you have inventory, you have search bar. Do you think it would be one people's job to manage them? No. Initially, when projects are started, generally they are started as monoliths only. So there are few advantages why people start with monolith, because it's simple to develop and very less minimal setup effort is needed. Whenever we are starting a project, we have to start in this fashion, right? We don't have to worry about architectures. If people are not using, what will your fancy architecture do? But yes, there are a lot of issues with monolith. That's why people are cribbing monolith is bad. See, the one big pain I face every day at work: deployment time. See, as soon as your project becomes big, we have like close to 2000 test cases. Eventually, it will take some time to run, right? Then you have FTs, then you have whatnot, you have builds with different projects. So, deployment time goes a lot. Like, I don't want to reveal it, but at least it takes our classic monolith to deploy one day. It's not good. So that is why we need to, if the project is a big, we need to move over. Then it's harder to adopt new technologies. Then I have just listed only three, but there are a lot. Like even getting your PR reviews done, following structure, everything is difficult. And even the biggest problem is fall detection. So if there is a bug in your particular project, right? Means in your product, it will end up screwing the entire system. So what? If you want to extend the monolith, what will you do? We can't say no, okay, the projects are getting screwed up because of the one bugs. We need some solution. Why? Because scale. When your project is small, right? Not much people are using it, then it is fine. But when, say now in that same project which I showed, right? Around 200 people work on it. One single repo. You need to expand. Then you need to think about maintainability also. Like it's very difficult. Only one team is taking care of deployments. One team is taking care of peer reviews. Who will maintain it? Of course, performance concern. So let's see two architectures. I was talking about, like, in that second example, the smart engineer who tried to divide their projects into small chunks, like small entities, right? So, and this is same like backend they had this microservices, right? Then we also adopted something called uh, this any funny meme. So micro frontends are nothing but just microservices for that have smaller chunks. Yeah. So let's take off this example. This is the IKEA website. Okay. So now we have bedrooms, then means card, then we have search, then we have this shipping, then we have authentication. Not everybody will take care of this, right? Only one team will take care of it. So when a project is divided, like okay, if you want to render some part, then they take it from somewhere. If you want to render this searching, there is a dedicated team for searching. Then you make that search as a common project. I'll show it in the end how you can actually structure a real world application. But for now, just think of it. A micro front end is when a whole chunk of project is divided within small teams, and that project have their own repo, or maybe it's part of the existing repo, a dedicated folder, and the deployment is what do we call it? Separate. And this I will put this slide. So the deployment is separate. Then you can even identify. Okay, if the search team had added some bug, it will not end up screwing up your entire project. So with micro front instance, with that entire project, right? You can it's like this. Okay, a big project is there, and then it's like this Lego blocks. One team is responsible for one Lego block. The other team is responsible for other Lego block. And then when you combine it, it forms the entire page. So a few of my favorite advantages of micro frontends is that the fault isolation. Then now working in a legacy code base or working in a very big code base, it's very difficult. Both from a developer point of view, and sometimes you don't even have the context. I can give you one example from my day-to-day work. So I work in a team called Checkout and Razorware. This project is like 8 years old, the first project of Razorware. If I make change in my one small element, sometimes it has side effects. It tends to break something else. Some I'm not talking about some line change. Some maybe I have added some new module. So it ends up breaking something else. But with micro front ends, right, this is not the case. Every project is chunked into one small. You can consider a new project itself. So you can add Sentry to it for logging, and then you can do independent deployments, whatnot. And then it's always easy to manage a small code base. So that is the advantage. Then you have like the one of the biggest advantages in micro front ends, which I feel that is you okay. Let me put it in an example. Say, whether it will not be uh, what do we call? It might not. You might not relate it with the this e-com website. But what if some other team wants to make their mini project in a different stack? With one project you can always have one stack, right? But if you are making your project in a micro front end structure, then you can have different stacks also. Now you might be thinking how. Huh. So there are many different ways how you can implement a micro front end. I have listed on the common four, and out of these four, the first two are very famous. Not famous, it's widely used. If you're working with React, right, people generally prefer this micro front end and this single SPA. What is a single SPA? Anybody have any idea? Okay. So single SPA is just like a JavaScript library with which you can have different in a project, right? If you want to make it as one entity, you can have different frameworks. So if you want to make different entities, right, then single SPA is best, and iframes and web components. But now you might be thinking, oh, micro frontend is the best what do we call architecture? But no, it have challenges, like a lot of challenges. The biggest ones I have listed on. See, with project side, generally a lot of companies write end-to-end tests. Setting up an end-to-end test with the micro frontend is very difficult because every project is a different chunk. How will you combine them and test it out? Then what do we call? Then what do we call? Then you need to set up just you need to set up monitoring, right? You need to set up different deployments. You need to set up different logging services. So that setup is difficult. And even if you want to communicate one micro frontend with the other micro frontend, state management, which is the easiest thing, right? We have seen in a project, it becomes difficult. Then you have the service interdependencies. What if one service needs the other service? Say like inventory with the cart, or why do we even want to show a lot of things in our inventory if they are not available? So some challenges. I'll also tell you a few of these challenges with micro frontends we have tried solving in one of our projects. I'll share some tips and tricks there. So after micro frontends, right, there is one more architecture which is a lot popular these days, that is monorepo. Monorepo is nothing, if I have to put it in very simple words, one big project, and then one big repo, and in that you have kept small different projects together. You might be thinking, why? If they are two different projects, right? Let me make two repos, right? But any guesses why people would need it? One thing is that people want to keep front end and back end together. That is one thing. But ever thought about any projects which also have iOS? iOS means they have a DWeb, desktop web is also there. They have an Android app, they have a native app. Maybe that one of the real life players which use monorepos is Swiggy. They have now kept their code in this fashion in one repo. They have the website's code is also there, the app's code is there. But why? Why do they need it? See, in projects, right, where you use maybe any libraries like style components, not style components, they're in-house styling library. You use it. Most of the elements are same. If you want to share some components, if you want to share business logic, then you can always, if things are kept in one repo, right, it's easy to use. Nahi to, what you need to do for that shared thingy, maybe you need to deploy it somewhere, or maybe expose it as packages. That is difficult, right? So that is why when some business logic is involved, people prefer to have monorepos. Do you think we saw about micro frontends and monorepos? Do you think can we use both of them together, or are these if you have a project, you can only have one kind of front end architecture? Any thoughts? Can we combine architectures? Yes, no, people sleeping. Yes, I'll show you one example in this, okay? How we have combined architectures and we have achieved best of both worlds. Before coming to that, let's discuss some advantages which monorepos give us. See, improved collaboration, just like I told. Then efficient CI/CD pipelines. Now you don't need to set up that same thing for two different projects. You might think that it is, what do we call, it is like, okay, we can set up in a different repo also, in a two different repos also. But sometimes these things gets complicated when you have a lot of checks on your bills. Then code navigation is very easy. But mono this monorepos are not that very great. See, we were running away from a monolith. Why? Because the size was increasing, right? What if you release both projects, say the iOS app, then the desktop app you have kept together? They will also increase the size. So at times, monorepos can be challenging. Even not just from the code perspective, but from the developers also need to get onboarded, right? They can also get difficult. And yes, again, the pain is there for, if you want to test the entire app together. Before going to that example, let's see how you can implement monorepos. So monorepo is nothing just like a tool. That means how you can adjust it. So the the common ones people use is Learner. People use a lot. It is now deprecated, but people still use it. And NX is there. Then Turbo Repo is something by Vossel. Then our Yarn workspaces. So now tell me one thing. When I was learning about micro front ends, monorepos, monolith, I got confused with this term. Like, you are saying in a monorepo, you are trying to keep different projects together in some different folders. Then in micro front ends also, if you keep it in one single repo, right? Since the deployments of monorepos can also be, you can have the deployment for a one small folder also. Don't you think both are similar? This mono repo and micro frontend. Then what is means like you're chunking down small projects into one. In micro frontends, you are keeping into different repos. People keep it in repos also. Isn't it the same? See, it is same. People confuse it, but I'll tell you, it's how the tooling is. This micro front ends, right? If we have micro front end 1, 2, 3, 4, if a fourth micro front end, if it is breaking, right, it will not pull down your 1, 2, and 3. But in case of monorepos, right, if your monorepo 1 is working fine, 2 is working fine, 3 is working fine, fourth is broken, it will end up making your system down. So that's a major difference. Let's talk about, initially I showed you a 8-year-old project, a big chunk. Now how we are trying to transform into this micro front ends, microservices. Let's see that story. I'll tell you a little background story before I jump into what are the architecture elements. What are the tools we are using? So it was still 8 years ago. Earlier, we only had one project, that is the PG. But now, with course of time, we have payment pages, we have payment links. Then what? We have magic checkout. Magic checkout is nothing. E-commerce version of one-click checkout version of Facebook. Then you have affordability widget and whatnot. So the development was becoming very, very, very difficult for that. I still work for that same dashboard, and my PRs, raise my PR. If I raise my PR in 3 days, another 4 5 days will go in, getting it reviewed. Firstly, I need to get it internally reviewed by my team. Then I have to, raise a Jira ticket to get asked somebody, the actual code owners, right, who have set up this project. Okay, please review my PR. Then they will take 2 3 good 3 times. Then my PR is merged. Then I need to wait for, with these big projects, right? You can't ship every day. It's not like that. Okay, today you want to ship it. Okay, let's run the deployment. It will go. You have weekly schedules. Why? Because it's how it is. It's not very difficult, very easy to deploy such things. It takes 6 to 7 hours to deploy one single dashboard. Seems unrealistic, right? In this high tech world, but it is true. Big architectures take times to deploy because even this CI/CD pipeline, right? They only take a lot of time to run it, and the build needs time to run it, right? So what's the solution? We can't work in that such environment, right? So that is why we have decided that we have this merchant dashboard. Let's convert an easy version of it. That is easy dashboard. What this easy dashboard will do? The merchant dashboard had a monolith. So now monolith was not working well for us. So we thought, let's do something with it and let's try to change the structure for it. This is a few screenshots which I have took. Now, see, now, like one thing, when you have a very big project, you can't say to your merchants, okay, buy merchants for 6 months, we'll not deploy anything on our dashboard. Come back after 6 months, we are having a huge headache. We want to convert our app from monolith to microservices or microservices. We can't do that. We can't stop the development, right? Because every day a customer will come with new requirements. You can't do that. So with big projects, right, this was a challenge. And if you have to change the structure, do you really think it's overnight's work? Yes, today you decided you will just copy paste the entire code into a different structure. No, it will not. It doesn't work that way. So we decided we'll take it pieces by pieces. So we did an experiment on which module you want to do. So we thought we had one module that is authentication. So what is authentication one? How you sign up, right? If you want to be you want to use Razorpay, you have to be a merchant of Razorpay. So you need to sign up on our platform. So we thought, let's take that sign up platform. Why? Why we chose that? Because the UX of that platform was also not good. So we thought it would be, one bird, one stone and two birds. We will improve our UX and all the gaps we had, and also we will move it to a different platform. So we took it. We started with it. Now, yeah. So with there is one more product of Razorpay called Phantom. What is Phantom? It's like if I want to make right? There are a lot of banks like HDFC Bank is there, Axis Bank is there, and they said they are our merchants, but they want to onboard their merchants also. So it's like we are making a dashboard for themselves that will look like it's their dashboard, just powered by Razorpay. So we had this Phantom also. So we want like sign up is common, right? If they have to sign up for the previous one or this one, it's all the same. So we took this. Now, okay, we had decided so far we will experiment with only one module for now. But then how? right? It's not like that, right? See, every architecture can fit in a particular requirement. It's not like that. If today I want to fit my requirement in monorepos, it might be true, but it depends upon the project also. So seeing the project, we thought of three things. Either we'll convert it to monorepos, right? Then I was talking about this single SPA. Since we want to give our upcoming projects an opportunity that they can also experience and play with a different stack. Then we were thinking, do you think this is single SPA is good enough? Or the third thing, monorepo with module federation, the best of both worlds. We'll take few elements which are good for monorepos, and we will take the few elements which are good from micro frontends. What do you think? Which approach we would have added to? Third one? Yeah. We decided to, after a lot of brainstorming, so we decided let's have best of both worlds. Yeah, we chose monorepo with module federation. But you might be thinking, I was talking about microfronting is what when we are keeping small projects in one. Now, how will monorepo come into this picture? Remember Swiggy's example when they had wanted to keep common components, business logics in one. So yeah, we wanted to, since both are authentication modules, right? We wanted to keep it as the common business logic in one. So we thought about we'll have something called shell. So this is the architecture which we had. So I'll just show it live. So let's, before seeing the architecture, let me show you this. So this is the normal dashboard. Just a second. Okay, it's loading. I am running on mobile hotspot, so that's why it's slow. So when we click on the sign up button, so instead of it opening a route in my existing razorbaydashboard.com, since we made it a different program project altogether, so we kept its endpoint different. Okay, so we thought that is easyrazorpay.com, and then we have added, since we have migrated three modules, that Phantom, onboarding, and one new thing I'll tell you later. So we have added the route. If you see, this is razorpay.com/onboarding. So let me reload it so that you can see how it works. It's loading. So you need to see. So the first thing that got loaded is the shell. What is the shell? And then the next thing, if I see a scroll down a little bit, you see onboarding. So what we did, what is the shell? We throw some light on it. So whenever a person is landing to this easy.traceaway.com, we are loading something called shell. All are S3 bundles, and then that bundle loads their components. So all the common things which we wanted to keep, we kept everything in shell. Even the routing, since all the three things were React apps only, we kept everything in the common things, basically the routing, then the logic if we want to, what do we call, state management, everything we kept in shell. Then this, if you are resume.com/onboarding, right? If you are hitting the onboarding link, it will load one more what is called S3 file, the remote entry file for the onboarding project. It's this. We were seeing it somewhere here. This is the remote entry file. Then if I load this Phantom website, it will, means it's basically if I will wanted to hit the Access Bank's website, it will load Phantom. And then we also are in Malaysia, so we have international version also. You should hit some curl it, so you will land into this what do we call, Malaysian version of Razor website. Now, how do we did it? One thing, we have kept all the common things in shell. Then what did the tools, right? So for the structure, right, we used something called learner, and for module, this module this of micro frontends, right, we use something called module federation. Why? Because we were having a React app, and React module federation is nothing but something with Webpack. Okay, if I have to put it in very simple words, so we use that Webpack thingy and this module federation plugin, and we have made this. Now, initially, when I was talking about some of the things, right? Some of the goods and bads about micro frontends and monorepos. One was the biggest one was the code duplicacy. If we were having a duplicate logic, the duplicate logic, then maybe duplicate components. So the one big good solution for it is we kept everything in shell. All the common APIs we kept in that. Also, we have exposed some functions using context that if you want to check that sub apps who needed to check, right, if the person is authenticated or not, and so we kept it in this shell. Then with micro frontends, is one of the best thing is that since they are acting as a small projects, right, you don't want to mess up with the state management, right? You it's a common practice or a common thing that you should keep the state management for all the apps different. So we opted with this React query. So it had all the caching and everything was sorted with React query, and along with that we used Justin. And for passing this, what do we call, if the person is authenticated or not, we have added some wrapper around our code with using context. Then I already mentioned we added the routing using shell. And yes, the one of the big things which we did that is when you're working with big projects, right, you need to know if some error is there, from where the error came. So we have added some error monitoring. So every small component, like all the small projects, this will have their own Sentry, and we achieved this using Sentry Hub. Yeah, that's how we did it. Now, I guess we just did some experiment on this small piece of code. We have still a long way. So we are, now trying to pick some small entities from that same project and trying to convert them into different micro frontends. So yeah, let's sum it up. So I am pretty sure people would have learned a lot about micro front-end architectures. Let me ask you a question now. If you're building a minimal viable product, it is an MVP, which architecture will you follow? Not everybody understood, is it? Why the voice is very low? Okay. So if you're working in a large e-com with separate team, what architecture will you follow now? I'm monorepo, micro front-end. Monorepo, why? Any reasons? Monorepo is a good option. It is a large e-com, right? As I mentioned, it will that monorepo will also become complex. So in my opinion, so it depends again upon your code structure. Micro frontends can also fit good. If you're developing a full stack application, what would you like to choose? Correct. So if you have your company manages multiple web applications, different versions of same suit, micro frontend also works. Monorepo also works. It depends on your use case. If you are developing a content heavy website where it depends. We also have one example like this in Razorpay also. What we have done, we have a BU called Capital who deals with them lendings and what do you call the money lending part of it. Just to keep, so we have 3, 4 front end projects. We wanted to keep some business logics correct. So we kept them, made we club projects. It is working by fine for us for now because you talked about right different projects might have different authentication system. Yeah, you can keep it. Then you do. Yeah, I guess correct. So, but they are responsible for that one small chunk of folder. Then they also have some, common reviewers who are taking care of if anybody is pushing into that common packages. So, like that. Yeah, correct. 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 So this is there means it depends. Just a trade-off is there, right? If you want code sharing, you can keep it in one, else you can keep across multiple thingies. But last, if you're working with a strict budget project, constraints and limited development resources, what do you think? What will you choose? Monolith. Cool. I just want to conclude on one thing. See, a lot of people in markets say that monolith is absolute shit. A lot of people say that only micro front ends are the cool ones, or you should use monorepo. I will say you one thing. Don't make your code in such a fashion that it can accommodate only one architecture. Your code should be adaptable enough so that if tomorrow if today I am in monolith, I'm converting myself into microservice. If or microfrontends, right? If tomorrow it doesn't work well with me, can I revert back to monoliths? So your code should be adaptable enough. So yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.